Let us go over how you can use Google Sheets in order to create graphs. The first thing you need is a data table. And as you can see, data tables will always have a heading for every column. Now, in general, you want to always include the independent variable in the first column. So this is our independent variable, and the dependent variable in the second column. So in this scenario, the student name or the student names are basically the independent variables, and the student heights in centimeters are the dependent variables. You should always include a measurement unit if it is applicable, and you should never include the unit inside the cells. So you should never do this, okay? And the reason why this matters is because later on when we are trying to create a graph out of this, it will not really work if you have anything beside the number in the cell. So you want to make sure in the cells you only have either numbers or words or letters alone, not together. So you can't have a name and a number next to it, or a number and a letter next to it. It's either going to be a name or a word or a number. Okay, so now that I have my data table set up, I'm going to select or highlight the entire data table, and then I'm going to click on Insert, Chart. And you'll notice right away that what Google Sheets does is it tries to create or tries to suggest a type of chart that best fits your data. So as you can see, it's suggested that we use a scatter chart. However, I know that a bar graph, okay, is a much better method or a much better way of representing my data. So instead, I'm going to click and select the column chart or the bar graph. And as you can see, it basically has the student names in the x-axis and the different heights on the y-axis. In order to get full marks, your graph should always have a title, okay, so a correct title. To edit or customize any of the titles, or so basically the main title of the graph, but also the titles of the axes, you're going to click on Customize, and then we're going to click on Chart and Axis Titles. So the first thing we want to double check is the chart title. So you're going to select it from this drop-down menu, and basically it automatically wrote it as the height versus student name. Now, this is not the format that you should use. When you're writing the title of a chart or of a graph, you always want to write it in the following format: the independent variable versus the dependent variable. If you remember, we always put the independent variable in the first column and the dependent variable in the second column. So therefore, the independent variable is the student name. So I'm going to click here. Okay, I'm going to click on Edit Chart. And then I'm going to go back to Customize. And for the chart title, I want to switch this around because it's written in the incorrect format. So it's going to be student name versus, so that's my independent variable, versus the height in centimeters. And that is my dependent variable. You can always, you can also change things such as the font, the color of the text, the format. You can make it bolded, for example, and the size. Another thing you can change is the titles of the axes. So the horizontal or the x-axis and the vertical or the y-axis. Now, there's no need to change them because it's actually correct. So the x-axis is our independent variable, so it's the student name, so that's in the correct place. And the y-axis is our dependent variable, and it's the height, so that is also fine. And that's about it. So everything else looks good, and there we go. This is our graph. It's done for us super fast. Now, if you want to kind of insert this into a doc or into a slide, you could either click on the entire graph and copy it. So edit copy or edit cut, or you can insert it directly into the slide or the doc using the options on there.